It is time to sharpen those pencils and fill up those backpacks. Kids are heading back to class, and your back-to-school station is here to help them shape the future.
I want to own my own bakery.
Either engineering or tech.
We've got everything you need to know for a successful year, from overcoming learning loss.
It was an amazing increase in his reading and his math SOLs.
To new safety upgrades meant to protect everyone in the classroom.
They're not going to just sit back and wait for something to happen. They're going to be out there preventing things from happening.
For the next hour, we're helping your family get ready for a new beginning with the 13 News Now Back to School Special.
Ashley, summer break is coming to an end. We are counting down the days to the first day of class.
Yeah, 13 News Now is your back to school station, and that means we are here to help you and your family conquer the new year. So for the next hour, we're going to touch on ways that you can try to boost your child's grades.
Yeah, plus we'll see where staffing shortages stand for school divisions across Hampton Roads.
And we'll break down the new safety measures and changes now in place after an unprecedented school shooting.
All right, as school gets back in session, educators already have a big challenge ahead of them, reversing pandemic learning loss. The latest numbers from the National Assessment of Educational Progress show steep declines here in Virginia's reading and math scores between 2019 and 2022.
Now, experts warn it can be tough to overcome learning loss without some extra help. Nicole Livas takes a closer look, at the problem and shares some possible solutions.
It's almost time for kids to hit the books again, and many may still be trying to catch up from the pandemic learning challenges, which experts say hit the younger students harder.
What we noticed was if they had those foundational skills, they were really able to manage learning at home a little bit easier than they were if they didn't have the foundational skills and they were trying to learn those at home, either with a parent or in a large online setting.
Jessica Bradley is a former teacher who now owns the Learning Room tutoring service.
Reading and math are going to be our core subjects until we get to about high school level. And then we're going to get, the chemistry and the really hard maths and those types of things.
Dr. Shannon Chappell-Moots is a research associate professor at ODU's Center for Educational Partnerships. She has studied trends in student achievement data in Virginia from before the pandemic through the 2022 school year.
They did make some progress, but there still are some gaps. There's about a 5% drop still in students who were not scoring proficient from that 2019 data.
Experts say students are getting back on track now, and many families have hired a tutor to help with that. Chesapeake Public Schools partners with the library for free online sessions.
They get a live person that comes back, they meet up with them, and then they walk them through whatever it is that they need help with. It can be homework help, it can be a specific skill.
Kim McGrath, Director of Academic Support for Chesapeake Schools, says tutoring is actually embedded into the school day.
We have, in our middle school, we call it Core Plus. So they have that right into their schedule. It's one of their bells. And at elementary school, they have a power-up bell.
Every child is on a different learning journey, but the growth can be significant with 2 sessions a week of tutoring.
So 2 hours a week, we're getting about 1.5 years of academic growth in 6 months. And that's an average.
So if you're considering a tutoring service, here are some questions you should ask. First, does the program work with your budget? And what is the rate of success for the program? How quickly does the program achieve that success? And how are the tutors screened and vetted?
There are resources out there to help pay for services. Your health insurance may also cover some related costs.
Insurance does cover some things. They will not cover tutoring per se, but they will cover things like speech or other occupational therapies and those things. And you might not just have to pay a copay. So it's worth asking.
And for more information on tutoring, ask your child's teacher or counselor for recommendations. Some tutoring companies offer free worksheets, flashcards, and some other online resources for you.
A new tutoring program connected thousands of Virginia families with millions of dollars worth of grant funding. Some tutors sat down with Alex Littlehales to weigh the overall benefit, but noted some obstacles they faced in the program's rollout.
Summertime hasn't meant more downtime for tutors across Hampton Roads.
We're just not used to getting free money.
This March, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin unveiled a $30 million tutoring grant effort to ease the cost of private, virtual, and group tutoring sessions. Here's how it works. Each student accepted receives exactly $1,500 toward tutoring services, Lower-income families can receive double that for $3,000. The sudden influx of funds makes it possible for parents to afford tutoring if they previously couldn't. Parents now finding tutors like Vanessa Dietrich.
They reached out to me and said, this is wonderful for us because now we can afford to pay someone in the areas that we cannot meet her needs.
Or larger learning centers like the one Kim Teixeira runs.
Between my two centers in Chesapeake and Suffolk, we have over 200, but I don't think we planned for as much as we have received.
According to a spokesperson for the governor's office, the funding total doubled to $60 million to meet demand. While tutors acknowledge the overall benefit of the program, they also admit its rollout wasn't without certain frustrations, specifically in how many vendors were paid. Businesses are paid on a reimbursement basis after a tutoring session, from a process started by an individual parent's invoice. This process can mean some tutors go weeks without being paid for their services.
Anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks before I'm getting paid.
Half of May and then all of June between my two centers that were unpaid. When that first deposit dropped, it was about $40,000 or $50,000.
So $1,900. I mean, that's a mortgage payment for a lot of people.
They also cite poor communication efforts between the Department of Education and the approved vendors.
I just don't even bother calling the liaison.
I have not gotten anything in terms of an email, hey, vendor of the grant, we just increased it by $30 million. I only learned that by watching it through the news.
DOE data shows across the Tidewater region there are more than 400 approved tutoring vendors in this area. Hundreds of tutors and small businesses who will have to now wait until the program runs into more money since it's already run out.
I think that maybe they didn't take into account that it was going to be so incredibly popular. I'm not sure how you can not know that when you're offering parents funds to get help for their children.
I'm Alex Littlehales for 13 News Now.
While the pandemic made it harder for some students, other families found their children thrive in a remote learning environment. And now nearly 200 students in the Hampton City Schools Division will take part in the FLEX program. The free online program allows teachers to weave adventures into their lessons and offers children an interactive experience. One family tells us it's making a difference.
It was an amazing increase in his reading and his math SOLs.
He helped us learn it. It was just really fun that it made me get more into it and learn it more.
Now, families do need to apply to join the FLEX program, but it is open to all K through 6th grade students in Virginia.
All right, whether your child is in a virtual or traditional classroom, it's important to have a school year schedule to make the transition from summer break easier for kids and parents. Experts recommend you start working on their sleep schedule. So important. Parents can start setting bedtime 10 minutes earlier every night leading up to the first day. You can also start waking your kids up at their regular school time. Easier said than done. When it comes to the amount of sleep, though, preschoolers, they need at least 10 hours. Elementary school students need at least 9, and older kids need at least 8 hours of sleep. Experts also encourage families to walk to the bus stop or visit the new school to help students prepare for the first day.
Everybody likes to know what's happening and what to expect. And when you don't understand or you're thrown into a situation where you've not been given expectations or understand the game plan, you then become dysregulated and you have the inability to learn.
And remember, all children handle the return to school differently, so experts recommend you take time to acknowledge any anxiety or fears your kid may have and work through that with them.
That's important for sure. Well, keeping students and teachers safe when they step on campus, how school administrators are ramping up security this year.
And healing after the shocking shooting at Rich Neck Elementary School, how a new hire plans to help the community feel protected.
You know, school safety is top of mind for many people. In the past 2 years, we've seen at least 3 shootings at schools in Hampton Roads, including one where police say a 6-year-old boy shot his first grade teacher. And now administrators are launching new plans in the wake of students bringing guns on school grounds. Ann Sparacco digs into what parents can expect for this year.
Protecting hundreds of students, teachers, and staff within a school division is no easy task.
It's a big deal protecting anyone.
Mark Stewart took on this big responsibility this summer as Newport News Public Schools' new crisis planning and prevention leader. The longtime security expert recently came out of retirement with the FBI to improve the school's safety plan after 3 separate shootings on school grounds raised dozens of security questions.
We also have got our policies that are going to be more proactive, much more proactive for the officers. They're not going to just sit back and wait for something to happen. They're going to be out there preventing things from happening.
The 3rd shooting happened at Richneck Elementary School when a 1st grader brought a gun to class and shot his teacher, Abby Zwerner. It not only shocked the community and nation, but it also created an awareness that school dangers can come from anywhere and anyone. Since the shooting, Newport News school administrators implemented dozens of new security measures, including adding weapons detection systems in every school and requiring students to carry clear book bags. But Stewart says he and school leaders also worked to add dozens of new security officers.
We're also adding 10 new substitute security officers. So if someone calls in sick, the school doesn't have to go short. And also, if there are problems in a school system, a particular school, we can surge more officers to that school for a short period of time.
And Newport News isn't alone. Just a month after the Richneck shooting, a 1st grade student brought a loaded handgun inside Little Creek Elementary School in Norfolk. That time, no one got hurt, but it raised dozens of questions about how the student got a gun inside the school. Leaders of Norfolk Public Schools have also implemented several new strategies. Some of the changes include additional funding in the school's latest budget to hire 18 more security officers and placing weapons detection systems in all schools. Back in Newport News, Stewart says the layers of the safety measures are key.
I want everyone to know we're going to work hard to keep it safe. Not make it safe, but to keep it safe.
I'm Ann Sparacco for 13 News Now.
The unprecedented shooting at Richneck Elementary School shook the community. Now a new employee tells Ann Sparacco he wants to help create a fresh start.
It's no secret Richneck Elementary School has been under a watchful eye since January 6, when a 1st grade student shot his teacher, Abby Zwerner.
Another school shooting.
Life-threatening injuries.
6-year-old student shot a teacher, dealing with life-threatening injuries.
Since the shooting, healing slowly made its way through parts of the community. School administrators implemented dozens of new security measures, created new advisory committees, and the school board introduced several changes to leadership roles. But a major lawsuit, questions and criticism over school safety, and charges against the mother of the student in the months following the shooting reopened those wounds and sparked new conversations. But with new beginnings come new opportunities.
I was in Albemarle County working as a school safety coordinator when I got the call from my mom that there had been a shooting in Richneck.
Carl Murray Jr. grew up in Newport News. Richneck Elementary marked the beginning of his childhood education.
I have family here, so the first thing I wanted to do was just get home to my family and be a support and do whatever I could for after what happened.
Murray's experience as a school resource officer, security expert, and chief of police brought him to different parts of Virginia and North Carolina over the last 18 years. But a conversation with his family shortly after the shooting at Richneck inspired him to come back home as the school division's new safety and security director.
And my mom talked about being able to come back home and being able to help and use those skills that I had to come back here. And the first thing I said was, if you ever open up a door for me to come back home, I want to come back home and be able to help and serve and watch over the people that I grew up with.
Murray will oversee several new strategies to the latest school safety plan, including all of the school resource officers and the additional 45 school security officers who will be present at each school this year.
I'll be over the security officers, but I'll also be working with the police department as well, with Chief Drew and the school resource officers. What I want the security security officers to keep in mind in this new year, particularly, is that, first of all, I want them to be vigilant, to make sure that they're there to keep everybody safe, that they're the first layer of security there. But I also want to make sure that they get behind the badge. They're approachable. They're high-fiving those students. They're there for those students.
It's an opportunity he felt he couldn't decline, knowing how this full circle moment could help create a fresh start for the school division.
It's what I do. Safety is what I do and what I'm called to do and what I'm here for.
In Newport News, I'm Ann Sparacco for 13 News Now.
And students at Rich Neck will actually see a few new faces this year. Rhonda Chambers-Harmon is the new assistant principal. Jackie Barber is taking over as the new principal. We did reach out to Barber for an interview. She declined. Dozens of schools will have new principals, though, this year. So we've got a list of the new faces at 13newsnow.com. Just search Back to School.
A familiar face will lead Newport News Public Schools this year. Dr. Michelle Mitchell is now the permanent superintendent. She led the division on an interim basis after the school board fired former superintendent Dr. George Parker. Mitchell said, quote, "I remain focused on my commitment to rebuild and advance Newport News Public Schools." And Hampton City Schools also has a new leader this year. The school board named Dr. Raymond Haynes as the new superintendent. The Hampton Roads native started his education career in Hampton 28 years ago. Haynes replaces former superintendent Dr. Jeffrey Smith, who retired after 8 years on the job.
And for the first time in nearly a decade, Hampton Roads' largest school division is searching for a new leader. Dr. Aaron Spence left Virginia Beach City Public Schools. In an exclusive interview, Dr. Spence said he's proud of the improvements to school safety, mental health, and school accreditation. So when asked about the challenges facing his successor, Spence pointed to everything from artificial intelligence to history lessons.
Well, I think Black history is American history, and I think that we should make sure that when we're teaching American history that we're talking about the impact of significant events in our country's history on everybody who lived in our country. And you can't do that without talking about things like slavery and Reconstruction and Jim Crow.
Dr. Spence will serve as the head of Loudoun County Public Schools. He says Virginia Beach will always be home and always be a part of his heart. Right now, Dr. Donald Robertson is the acting superintendent. He's worked with Virginia Beach City Public Schools since 1998.
It's time for students to get their back-to-school shots. We break down who needs to visit the doctor before returning to class. Plus, teacher pay falling short across Hampton Roads. Which school division offers the lowest salary and how it's impacting vacancies? The clock is ticking for kids to get the required immunizations.
Yeah, students will need to roll up their sleeves before walking through the school doors. Janet Roach breaks down who needs to get their shots and which ones to get.
All right, you ready?
The rush is coming, the syringes and needles are waiting, and more kids are stepping into the health department to get up to date on their shots.
The key years all parents should remember: those students entering pre-K, kindergarten, rising 7th graders, and rising 12th graders.
Those are the students who have mandatory immunizations required by state law.
So pre-K and kindergarten is about 6.
DTaP, polio, hepatitis A and B, mumps, measles, rubella, and varicella. 7th grade, Tdap, meningitis, and HPV. 12th graders need to get their second dose of the meningitis vaccine and a recommended HPV vaccine.
We do highly encourage them to get their child vaccinated against HPV, which is a strand that can cause particularly cervical cancer in females and genital warts in males.
You all right? And just relax that shoulder. Just there you go.
It's time for 16-year-old Andrea Lopez to get her second meningitis vaccine, and Norfolk makes it convenient with a walk-in clinic.
All right, little poke.
Recent controversies and misinformation swirling around the COVID vaccine increased the challenge for healthcare providers to encourage compliance with traditional immunizations. But UVA health pediatrician Dr. Sarah Boggs says doctors are there to ease minds.
Absolutely. Your doctor wants to be your partner in getting your child vaccinated.
And I don't know any pediatrician ever who would recommend something that is purposefully harmful to a child.
She adds one of the reasons we don't hear much about certain diseases is because vaccines work.
We're only going to keep those diseases away if we keep vaccinating.
Your local health department is ready to get you any of the required immunizations. We have links in this story on where you can go. Also, make sure you have your child's shot records and bring an insurance card if you have insurance. Janet Roach, 13 News Now.
Scrambling to fill vacancies ahead of the new year. How the teacher shortage is creating gaps in Hampton Roads.
Plus, a new way to ease parents' stress when facing school bus delays. Why student IDs will now serve as a child's ticket home.
Welcome back to the 13 News Now Back to School Special. You know, children are gearing up for a new academic year, but there may not be enough teachers to fill up the classrooms.
Yeah, an ongoing problem. And administrators at local school divisions spent the summer, though, finding and onboarding educators in their ranks. Angela Garantok reports on their efforts as the nation grapples with an ongoing teacher shortage.
Across the U.S., applicant pools for teaching positions are generally slim. Less people want the job and more are resigning or retiring. It's a long-standing issue prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, which only exacerbated in recent years.
I think that we have to acknowledge that we're expecting more from our educators each and every day.
Dr. James Fetterman serves as president of Virginia Education Association, a union of more than 40,000 teachers and school support professionals. What's the state of teacher vacancies right now in the Commonwealth?
It's very unsettling.
Fetterman says educators seek respect and fair pay. He also explains why our area requires a significant rebound.
Specifically, the Hampton Roads region had a teacher vacancy rate more than 50% higher than the statewide average in the last school year, which was 6.2% versus 3.9%.
Lawmakers are taking notice. U.S. Senator Tim Kaine is championing the passage of the Preparing and Retaining Education Professionals, or PREP Act. The bipartisan legislation aims to enhance training programs and increase diversity by tapping into talent at institutions like historically Black colleges and universities.
Just doing the same thing we've always done is not necessarily going to solve this, and so we have to undertake some innovative strategies.
Locally, public school administrators turn to job fairs like this one in Chesapeake to boast packages and in-house perks. They're especially eager to fill critical shortage areas, including math, Spanish, and special education. Recruiters for Virginia Beach City Public Schools are offering this incentive to those teacher candidates.
We provide early commitment funds up to $5,000 for those critical shortage areas.
As of August 9th, VBCPS coordinator for recruitment and retention, Ann Glenn Zelsnack, tells me there are 68 teacher vacancies. That breaks down to 44 full-time positions, 7 part-time openings, and 17 for special education.
We want teachers who are certified or eligible to be certified here in the state of Virginia.
Zelsnack says administrators can help guide those eligible to apply for provisional teaching licensure. Similarly, in Hampton City Schools, a spokeswoman tells me they're focused on growing their own staff, among other strategies. As of August 9th, she recorded 24 teacher vacancies, or a nearly 99% staffing level. Angelique Arentalk, 13 News Now.
Teacher pay, of course, one driving force behind these shortages. Inflation eating into salaries that some people say are already too low. The latest data from the National Education Association showing teachers make about $3,600 less than they did 10 years ago. Dan Kennedy takes a closer look at all 7 cities.
This year, some teachers are learning a hard lesson before they even start teaching their own.
Virginia just hasn't been keeping up with inflation.
Inflation has taken a bite out of workers' wallets these past few years, and Chad Stewart with the Virginia Education Association says teachers in Hampton Roads are no exception.
When we consider inflation over the past few years that has been eating away at people's pay, a lot of divisions within the Hampton Roads region haven't really seen a real pay increase for their starting salaries over the past 3 years.
When it comes to starting teacher salaries this year, Portsmouth ranks highest in the region at $53,598. Chesapeake, Norfolk, Suffolk, and Hampton aren't far behind. Newport News pays $52,710, while Virginia Beach this year dropped from first to last at just under $52,000. Virginia Beach is the only local city to not increase starting teacher pay this year, while the other cities are paying between 3 and 7% more to new teachers.
Let's talk teacher pay. Virginia Beach, one of the highest in the region. Is it where it needs to be right now?
No, it's not where it needs to be. And I think there's a great opportunity to work with our governor, work with our General Assembly, and advocate for teacher compensation.
Outgoing Virginia Beach Superintendent Dr. Aaron Spence pointed to a recent nonpartisan study in the Virginia General Assembly that found the Commonwealth has been chronically underfunding education. Stewart says it's up to both the state and cities to pay teachers better, and he points to other schools outside Virginia doing that right now.
More and more, we're seeing divisions in other states throughout the country kind of setting the minimum threshold at $60,000 for starting pay. And that seems to be fairly effective at getting people in the door initially.
In the meantime, if competitive teacher pay was like a final exam, Stewart says Hampton Roads would get a failing grade.
I don't think there's almost any locality in Virginia that would be passing the test for competitive teacher pay.
Well, parents are planning out how their children will get to school and back. School administrators across Hampton Roads say the bus driver shortage is a lot better this year, but many divisions are still hiring. Dana Smith has a look at where things stand ahead of the school year.
John Mangus has worked as a bus driver for 10 years.
What other job can you have where you get the summer off if you can take it off?
But it's not just the perks of the job that keep him coming back to Virginia Beach City Public Schools.
But honestly, the biggest reason I'm here is real simple. I love kids.
In a matter of days, many children across Hampton Roads will hop on a school bus for the first day of class. And school administrators are paying up to make sure divisions have enough bus drivers to ferry children to school and back.
We're starting them at $21.49 an hour.
Chris Sprouse is the special education coordinator at Virginia Beach City Public Schools. His division has one of the highest starting salaries for bus drivers in Hampton Roads. He said through recruitment and training over the past year, his division has finally filled every bus driver vacancy.
We will have a driver on every run on the first day of school.
But with the first day of school right around the corner, there is one job they're still hiring for.
We have a big shortage of bus assistants, and these people, their jobs are just as important as driving the bus.
Virginia Beach is looking for 60 bus assistants. These are people who primarily help special needs students. Despite this shortage, Mangus said things are still looking better than years past.
It was hard. We had, I think we were down 100 plus drivers 2 years ago, and everybody was from day in to day out at the brink.
A nationwide bus driver shortage left several divisions scrambling to fill hundreds of empty positions. This time last year, Virginia Beach needed 140 drivers, Chesapeake needed 120, and Newport News needed just over 100.
School bus driver shortages is a national issue. It's just not Virginia Beach. It's all of our local Hampton Roads area schools. Everybody is short.
And just about every division is still hiring.
It might have been tough, but everything's going to be great moving forward.
As school divisions head into the new school year, there is one message bus drivers want you to keep in mind.
Bus drivers are people too. And sometimes we just need a nice hello, thank you, as well as we give it right back to you.
Dana Smith, 13 News Now.
Well, a shortage of bus drivers could have parents waiting hours for their children to come home. And now new ID cards in Chesapeake could help ease a parent's worries. Emily Harrison sat down with the school division's director of transportation to learn more about what parents need to know.
And I can tell the parent immediately, did they swipe on the bus, what bus they swiped in on, what bus they're riding on, where they got on, what time they got on. All of that critical information that will just ease the parent's level of anxiety.
All of that
that information is immediately recorded and sorted online, thanks to a card that weighs less than a pound. Starting the 2023 school year, all pre-K through 5th grade students at Chesapeake Public Schools are required to carry an ID badge.
They'll be delivered to the schools. The schools will then send them home with the kids. And prior to them going home, we'll be sending out communication to all of our parents to let them know when you can expect your child to come home with their ID badge.
The decision comes after a year-long pilot program at Norfolk Highlands Primary. For 1 year, these cards acted as their access pass for almost everything, like getting on and off the school bus, to check out library books, and to get lunch.
I like this badge because it helps me get my food and it helps me get ice cream.
Layla Jones, a student at Norfolk Highlands Primary, showed 13 News Now exactly how her card worked when we visited in March. She says her card reminds her of her mom's driver's license.
And I'll get a new one when I'm a grown-up, like my mom.
Well, don't be alarmed if your student does not come home immediately with their ID badge. Benson says the division expects to roll out the program over a 9-week span, and everyone should have their cards by October.
Inflation putting a dent in back-to-school shopping this year. A survey from Deloitte found parents are pulling back on spending. It found parents plan to spend a little under $600 per child, and this time they're prioritizing spending on supplies instead of clothing and tech. With no sales tax holiday in Virginia this year, families felt the pain in their pockets.
The price range and the price hike has been totally noticeable. We have to have that tax credit back. We need it back.
So the provision that allowed that tax-free weekend expired on July 31st. It's now up to lawmakers to bring it back. If you're still scouring for supplies, experts recommend comparing prices and taking advantage of price match policies. You can also work with other parents to buy supplies in bulk and then split the cost. Finally, talk to your child's teacher and see if there's any items that aren't needed until later in the year.
Well, there are new controversial policies on the books for transgender students, how the changes could impact student athletes.
And protecting students from their peers, how a new law aims to stop bullies in their tracks. Transgender student policy is a hot-button issue this school year. School boards are deciding whether to adopt new guidelines from the Virginia Department of Education. The model policies direct students to use the restrooms based on their sex at birth and requires parent permission before addressing a student by different pronouns or a different name. But new guidelines change more than just classroom education. Alex Littlehales walks us through why the state's athletic authority can only sit back and watch this issue unfold from the sidelines.
Virginia's Authority on High School Sports says changes to transgender student-athlete play won't come from them. Current Virginia High School League policy shows transgender students are allowed to appeal and play sports based on their gender transition and identity. In a statement to 13 News Now, VHSL staff cannot, quote, pass or amend this policy, a policy that's seen 25 appeals and 22 approvals over a roughly 10-year window. But according to Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's newly updated transgender policies, athletics will be determined based on sex, not gender or gender identity. And as a former high school athlete, Icarus Landacre says the protection of the appeals process is needed.
That having that safe space is, I can't even put into words how much that means.
The now graduated Virginia Beach student played 1 year of girls soccer at a time when Landacre said they thought about transitioning. Landacre says they never truly felt comfortable playing on either of the two soccer teams at their school, leading her to play on a high-level club team instead. Landacre says the VHSL's appeals process keeps future student athletes from slipping through the gaps.
Just knowing it's there, it's like having a safeguard, which, I mean, anyone would like to have a safeguard because it gives them a second option if their current options run out or don't work.
And the Virginia High School League adopted its transgender policy in 2014, allowing students to play on a team different from their birth gender if they show proof of a sex reassignment or medical documentation.
Well, as schools welcome back all students, one new law in Virginia aims to tackle bullying. Sarah Hammond breaks down the law and why 2 anti-bullying activists say this was the right thing to do.
Clara Huff knows firsthand what bullying feels like.
We don't know what we did wrong. We didn't bother nobody.
When she was in elementary school, she says a girl in her class started a rumor about her and her best friend, and it spread fast.
I didn't know why she did it. I don't know what was her reason for doing what she did, but that, it affected me.
Now, the 23-year-old works alongside her mother, Fiona Huff, to encourage people to spread love, not gossip. She also penned an open letter as part of the book A Letter to My Bully, Sticks, Stones, and Words Do Hurt, released in 2014.
Sticks and stones may break my...
break my bones,
but words will never hurt. Well, they do hurt.
That's why Fiona calls a new law in Virginia spot on. Schools in the Commonwealth are now required to notify parents within 24 hours of a reported bullying incident. Before, the law only required the principal to notify the parent within 5 days.
And in the meantime, that child could potentially commit self-harm or retaliate.
1 out of every 5 students in the U.S. report being bullied. That's according to the National Center for Education Statistics. 46% of them reported the incident to an adult at school. This mother-daughter duo says the new 24-hour time frame will make a big difference.
It's let's solve this together type of thing.
I think it's good for teachers, parents, and students that we get it handled as soon as possible.
Not only for the child who was bullied, but also the bully themselves.
Your child may be the one that's the aggressor, and you don't know that because you just assume, that, it's not my child, but it really is your child, So it puts that pressure, that responsibility, and that accountability.
And Clara has a message for anyone out there feeling powerless at the hands of their bully.
To not let any of these experiences or what's going on hold you back from having the best future possible.
Sarah Hammond, 13 News Now.
And that's not the only new law in Virginia that will impact public education. All primary and secondary schools are now required to have an automated external defibrillator, or AED, in the building. So school boards must also partner with a community mental health service provider to expand counseling services to students. And another law expands several provisions of the Virginia Literacy Act for students in grades 4 through 8.
Your child could eventually be a student in a college partnership laboratory school. Colleges and universities across the state are busy planning public lab schools for K-12 students. While there's excitement over this initiative that Governor Glenn Youngkin says will improve education, some people aren't so sure. Janet Roach explains.
Everyone, up! Let's do drive mode.
This is what learning looks like when it's fun.
All right.
When kids are engaged and tapping into their technological talents.
I got one. Through play, children really do learn a lot about the world and the problems of the world and how to solve them through play.
So everybody take Bolt for a spin.
We're doing technology and testing robots.
This technology camp at Norfolk State is a glimpse into what the university's lab school could look like. NSU is one of several $200,000 planning grant recipients from the state to create a lab school. What does that mean?
One, reading literacy. If a student does not have a strong understanding of being able to read and why comprehension of what they read is important, you really set them up for failure as they move along.
And literacy sets them up for success in STEM. These bolts, as they're called, teaches kids the same kind of engineering behind a robot vacuum.
There you go. Brand new ball.
Thank you. All right, I have a challenge for you. Are you up for the challenge? There you
Once
go.
the schools are approved by a state board, each one gets $1 million in startup funding. NSU's plan is for pre-K through 2nd grade, located right on campus.
In this room, we are converting this into our GoTech space.
Old Dominion is also excited about its vision for STEM education in the maritime field, launching their lab schools in Newport News and Chesapeake. If approved, the high school students will spend a lot of time in the Brooks Crossing Innovation Lab.
For us, we're treating these as community-based lab schools. It means we are going to be housing them primarily within the school divisions themselves. Brooks Crossing is an opportunity for students to have that internship, externship experience to go off-site.
ODU will submit its Newport News proposal later this year, Chesapeake early next year.
To provide students just excitement and enthusiasm around STEM learning.
The idea of lab schools designated as public does come with controversy. Democratic lawmakers push back on giving grant money to the private higher learning institutions that qualify to create lab schools, and question whether funding will be at the expense of public schools already in need. In a statement following the approval of the first lab school, the Virginia Education Association president writes, "Let's work to fund all public schools, like we fund our lone lab school."
And Youngkin says lab schools are the first steps in giving parents new options for their kids to learn in innovative and creative ways and break the status quo of a one-size-fits-all education.
Helping teachers survive another long school year, how you can make sure educators feel appreciated for their hard work. Welcome back. Teens in Hampton Roads are building up their confidence by learning what it takes to build a boat. Yeah, the Tidewater Wooden Boat Workshop teaches hundreds of students the basics like science and engineering, but it also gives them life skills. They use everything from hammers to saws to create their own boat from the ground up.
It really gives children an opportunity, well, teens most likely, I feel, an opportunity to learn new things. It makes me feel like as long as I attempt something and I do learn it, I can most likely accomplish it.
The workshop has after-school hours during the academic year where students build an actual boat they get to sail on the Elizabeth River.
Very cool. We all know teaching is not easy. That's why it's so important to take time to thank our teachers for their hard work. Now, one program is making sure teachers know they're appreciated. Grace Bible Church encourages people to support educators throughout the school year with its Adopt a Teacher program. The group works with schools to receive teachers' names, and participants will send notes or sweets to them monthly.
Sometimes it's a thankless job. Students don't come running into your classroom saying, "Thank you so much for all of the planning that you did prior to today." Because really what you're doing is not just supporting that teacher, you're supporting hundreds of kids in their development and learning.
And you don't have to attend Grace Bible Church to participate in the program. You can learn more about this program and get more information about all of the stories we've shared today by going to 13newsnow.com/backtoschool.
Well, we want to see your children's first day fit. Just take a look at these cute pictures we received from viewers last year. Hey guys, you can send in your back to school photos by texting them to 757-628-6200, and you may see them online or on air. And as we gear up for the first day of school, I loved having to pick that first day outfit.
Outfit's huge, right? Very important. My favorite part, I think, was going to class and not knowing who was in your class.
Oh, that's a good one.
And then seeing a couple of friends that you remember.
Oh my goodness, the book bags and just the memory, all of it. It's all good. And you know what? We appreciate you for joining us today. We wish all the students, the parents, the educators a wonderful school year.
Absolutely. And stick around. 13 News Now at 5 starts after this.